Now, neither of you need much in the way of introduction, but I'm just going to highlight a couple of key notes about both of you so that the audience are reminded of all the things you've done. Justin, of course, former CEO of Sainsbury's, leading the supermarket empire with 1,200 shops, 160,000 staff, meeting his target of growing Sainsbury's sales to $2.5 billion in the first 4 years, and then successfully steered the supermarket past the collapse of Lehman Brothers. And the winner of the Daily Telegraph Award. I didn't know that. Tremendous. For a decade of excellence in business. Congratulations to you. And Paul, I loved discovering that you used to be involved with Nickelodeon. That was a tremendous discovery on my part, but of course well known for being the founder of Britain's #1 baby food brand, Ella's Kitchen, which he grew from a British startup to an internationally renowned brand sold in markets all over the world. Last year, he co-founded the social enterprise The Key is E and has just launched natural children's toiletries startup, Paddy's Bathroom. Basically a response to pressure from home. Ella had a business, now Paddy wanted a business too. Excellent.
The dog's looking at me, hopefully.
Now, Paul, I want to come to you first, because this whole idea of having a purpose, I know is very important to you and was when you started off Ella's Kitchen. Tell me a little bit more about your thinking and why you felt you had to really cling to that central tenet.
Well, I think when you think about purpose, it raises the question, why? And I think that's a really, really important question in life, but especially in business, because too often we explain what we do and how we do it. But what we really do with people is engage why. Entrepreneurs set up their business answering a question about why. Justin accepted a job at Sainsbury's, not, I'm sure, just because of the pay packet, but because of the why, what he could achieve from doing that. And that brings motivation, why, and it brings a sense of community and a culture. And I know that everybody who works for Ella's Kitchen has got through our interview process because they've got the right answers to the why. They want to work there. And with a purpose, a single purpose, we can motivate those people and achieve the ultimate goal for us, which isn't just about making money, but that profit is really important. It's about making a difference in society.
So that was your purpose, and you set out with that in mind, or would you like to just sort of articulate exactly what your purpose was?
Yeah, our purpose is now codified into a mission, which is very simple. It's to improve children's lives by giving them a healthier relationship with food. So that doesn't mean that we spot one of our competitors doing a great product and we do the same product in our packaging, because that's not improving people's lives. They could buy that other product. What it does mean is that we've got the opportunity to write cookbooks, of which we've got 3 in the marketplace, which on the face of it is against what we do in selling pre-prepared food, but it's about improving children's relationship with food. So all of those things help our brand resonate with people, and ultimately it's people that come and want to work for us, and it's people that are going into the supermarkets and buying off the shelves. Some of them are deciding on price and quality, some of them are deciding on the ethics and their resonance with our mission, our purpose, and their purpose in life.
So Justin, did you consider that side of Ella's Kitchen when you were wondering whether or not to put Ella's Kitchen products on your shelves in Sainsbury's? Did that matter to you?
No, honestly. I think it's one of the what it mattered, why it mattered was ultimately it resonated with customers and it made it a successful product. And whilst it's always the case that you will look at a brand when it's bought to a business like Sainsbury's and try and understand whether it's going to be successful. First and foremost, it was the passion of Paul, the fact that he tried to cut through the structure of our business. Big grocery businesses find it quite difficult to form relationships with entrepreneurial organisations. We, in Sainsbury's, put quite a lot of mechanisms in place. We at the time actually had something called Buy Something New Today, because the advertising at the time was Try Something New Today. That was the customer message. The message to our buyers and to the supply base was we wanted to innovate again. One of the things our customers had told us they thought Sainsbury's was good at historically was bringing new products, innovation, excitement to the weekly grocery shop. Paul couldn't get through the system, but he wrote to me, and I'm a great believer if someone's passionate about something, they're more likely to do it well. And I was able to cut through the system. Ultimately, though, it really mattered to our customers, and that's why it became so successful on Sainsbury's shelves.
I mean, what would you say Sainsbury's purpose was?
Well, the mission is, I can still remember it, even though it's getting slightly dim distant, to be the world's most trusted retailer where people love to work and shop. But it's not, those words, if they're just words that you can trot out like that, count for nothing. It's what sits beneath it in terms of substance, because if you set the bar as high as trust requires you to set it, then you're going to have to do some things very differently than that you would do if you purely had a short-term profit motive. Likewise with your employees, colleagues as we called them in Sainsbury's. I have a trouble with the S word. I don't kind of understand the concept. I think the use of the word staff is intended to be hierarchical and confrontational. And love's a very high bar. People coming to work because they love the work that they do, and customers shopping in the store because they love what that store does for them is a very high bar. And we worked very hard at understanding what was important to our colleagues and important to our customers, because love was the ambition and trust was the ambition, and did a lot of things for which a pure financial short-term profit motive would not get you to. You'd never make a decision to go 100% fair trade bananas on the maths.
But your shareholders are people too. Did they love what you were doing?
I think there's a sort of common belief that shareholders are so focused on profit that they're going to be sitting in the room with chief exec saying, "Why are you wasting $4 million a year on bananas?" I was never asked that question. Ultimately, success grants you permission to do some of these things, and by the time we started making some of those big decisions, we'd had 3 or 4 years of the turnaround. But I found increasingly amongst what you might imagine some of the most sort of hard-nosed, financially focused people, an understanding that the output of our business could not be explained purely by the objective inputs. Time and again, analysts would say Sainsbury's should be suffering in this downturn, but they're not. There must be a missing ingredient. Not quite their words, but not far off. And purpose, in the broadest sense of that word, was the missing ingredient.
How did you find working with such an enormous company as Sainsbury's, and now we can sit here and say, yes, you did have a purpose and you understood what your small suppliers like Ella's Kitchen were trying to do, and you appreciated that. But did you find that the relationship, between a small supplier and a big business like that allowed for such a luxury, if you like, as purpose?
Well, my pitch into Sainsbury's was very much, on the quality of the products and the need for the Sainsbury's consumers for those products for the reasons that would improve their lives. And it had to make financial sense for them, it had to make financial sense for us. But part of my pitch was the people that shop in your aisles are people, and they're motivated by all sorts of different things. We all live in very complicated lives. Some of it's about health, some of it's convenience, some of it is about the good that you're doing, some of it's about the fun that they could have with their children. And I had to structure that argument to show that it was different to everybody else, so there was a gap in the market. There was a market in that gap in that people would want to buy this stuff. And Sainsbury's did stick their neck out, and that we formed a great partnership from that point forward. But at the end of the day, the risk was on me, because I knew if it didn't sell in the first 6 months, there would be reviews, and that's the way the world works. And quite rightly, it's got to perform economically. And my bet was that we could form, through our brand, through using a real story of my family and myself, a connection that would at least get people to try our products, and then they had to sell on the price and the taste and the quality of them.
It's interesting, though, you come back to that central truth, though, that when you say that's the way the world works, it has to work economically.
It does. I think business is like a body, a human body, and we tend to focus when we're talking to people on the head. And that is, to me, the profit of a business, okay? So it's the communication that comes out, it's the brain, the thinking, and everything like that. That's the profit. But you need a heart to make the whole thing work. And a heart isn't this sort of liberal love thing. Heart is the thing that pumps blood around the body. And the blood, in my case, is the thing that motivates people and things that keeps people alive. And it's the way that the brain can get engaged with through the supply of blood. And that analogy sort of is right at the heart of our business.
Do you think the world has changed, the consumer world has changed now forever, Justin? Do you think that this is going to become, not so much for any new business or existing business, a nice to have? Yes, we've got a good purpose, and that purpose is probably going to increase well-being or good in the world, but it's now a must-have for a business to be successful.
I think if you take the longer-term view, yes. I mean, I'm absolutely with the idea that it's as well as not instead of, and I think that often gets mixed. I can think of lots of examples of business over the years that came to Sainsbury's and said, we've got a great purpose, and we said, well, yeah, but actually you've got a really poor product, and it doesn't work that way round. And I think you need to keep that bit on the ground. But I do believe that Sainsbury's relative success, because I think you have to add the word relative in the context of the challenges that the grocery market has faced in the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, far and away the best performing of the major grocers over the last 5 or 6 years, had at its core a business that was closer to the things that were important to its customers. And understanding that, measuring it, incentivizing it. I'm going to give you a simple example. There's an industry survey in grocery done every year from the supply base and retailers that measures the relationship between suppliers and retailers and what suppliers think about the retailers that they serve and vice versa. That's a bonusable measure for the buyers in Sainsbury's. Coming first, being the preferred customer, is a bonusable measure. And I don't believe any other grocery retailer does that. Now, that's, I think, quite profound in terms of the impact it's likely to have on the way a buyer will handle a supplier. They also have profit and sales targets for their bonuses too, so it is a balance.
How do you respond to the increasing success of the discounted grocers like Aldi and Lidl? Because, I mean, for both of you, that must presumably make you slightly pause for thought and think, well, clearly price is extremely significant to shoppers.
Gosh, we haven't got long enough to answer that question, really. But we really haven't. But actually, what's happening with the discounters doesn't really have a lot to do with price. I really could bore for Britain for about an hour and a half on that. But they are absolutely hitting a nail on the head that satisfies some consumers some of the time. Yeah. Actually, they're not at historical highs. Discounters, proper limited line discounters, peaked their market share about 20 years ago. Some of the people in the room remember a business called QuickSave. QuickSave at its peak was still bigger than if you added Aldi and Lidl today.
I suppose you could argue that they have just defined their purpose in a different way from you guys.
And I think a business like ours has got to pick our partnerships, work with those partners for the benefit of both, and not be something to everybody. We've got to know who our market is and go for that market. That's using your consciousness. That's using, again, humanness that's, I think, to avoid from business too much. You've got to pick your partners and not just trade with them, but sort of collaborate with them and find things that mutually benefit both of you. So at the end of the day, when people like me go into a Sainsbury's or any retailer and you're talking to a buyer, and it's in my interest to understand what motivates that person. Is it his or her bonus and how that bonus is put together? Is it what they're trying to do with their boss and to find the next best thing? I was aware that Sainsbury's had try something new today as an outside message. So that sort of made me think, as well as I knew that the demographic base was fitted with us. So there was a whole load of things that I thought that they're my best bet. But I really think when I look at Ella's Kitchen, and people often say, oh, you're a business with a conscience, and I look at it a completely different way. I think we're a group of people that are together, whether we're the shareholders or the employees or our stakeholders, and we're a people with a conscience that has a business. And that, looking at it that way around, everything in business should have a conscience. So I think that the businesses that will succeed in the future are those that will be able to obviously make profits, but also touch a chord with all the stakeholders that they're good for society. And in this time of rapid change, I think there's all sorts of new things coming along, whether it's the consumers and everybody wants to get engaged and challenge you through social media, and that's got to be Princely Instance, and you've got to have a group of ethics behind that. Whether it's the fact that there's scarce resources around and we have to think economically, but consciously about using water and oil and things like that. I think whether it's that there's a lack of trust in society about so many things because things are pitched as black and white and there's lots of grey and you've got to cover those grey areas. There's a whole load of areas where businesses like ours, and there's a whole group of B corporations in the US that are coming to the UK that will reflect many of those things as a movement.
Paul, Lindley, Justin King, we have to call it a day there, but thank you very much indeed. Thank you, really interesting. Thank you.